So, work from home. Whether you're able to do this through your job and you have the luxury to be able to work from wherever you like, or you've been forced to recently with the closure of office buildings and public places, it's basically something that a lot more people are taking up now, and it can be a little bit hard to find kind of a routine and adjust to a normal way of life when you're literally just in your house the whole time. I've been working from home kind of a few times a week for the last 18 months as in my job as a software developer. Basically, the experience for me here at home is essentially the same as going into the office, obviously other than just seeing people around me. So I've come up with a few tips and ways to still feel connected, still have like a normal way of life, normal routine, without physically having to go anywhere and go to the office. My first one for this, and it's super tempting not to do this, but just set an alarm every single day. I've gone onto my phone, I've set every single day, like even Saturday and Sunday, I've just set an alarm for 20 past 8, which isn't really super early. But that gives me heaps of time to wake up and get ready for work at 9 a.m. I'm able to basically wake up, I've got time to have a shower, I can grab a coffee, come sit back down, turn on my computer, whatever. Still got a little bit of time before I, have to start working. And having this routine even on Saturdays and Sundays means I'm in this habit of going to bed at the same time every night. I'm not, ruining my sleep cycle by, staying up super late one night on a Friday or Saturday night, then having to try and get up again on a Monday morning and falling into that trap of, I'll just sleep in because I can just pull my laptop, and start working straight away. So set that routine, get into that routine, stick to that routine, set your alarm for 8:20 every morning. Even if you were up super late the night before, still leave that alarm because that'll force you to get into that sleep cycle. My second tip kind of leads on from that, and I kind of alluded to it before, is don't bring your laptop into bed. Don't even bring your phone into bed if you can help it. I used to make this trap when I first realized or worked out I could work from home, was I'd literally just have my MacBook right next to me in bed. I'd wake up at 8:59, set my alarm, be like, I gotta go to work, pull out my laptop like half asleep and, get my laptop out and start working straight away. That's literally the worst thing you can do. Not only are you really not very productive in bed, typing like this half awake, you're not really giving your full attention to what your work is. You're also kind of conditioning your mind to think that work is done from bed. And so when you want to go to bed and go to sleep, you'll be thinking of work because your bed is known as a workspace. And still now, I've cut that out, for a while now, but still I, kind of get into bed and I'm thinking about work and thinking about a lot of things. And I think, that's, if you can avoid getting into that habit and, really delineate your spaces between your bed being a sleeping place, and your work being somewhere else that's not your bed, you're going to have a much better time separating, especially, when your home is your work, at this point. So when I get up in the morning and get out of bed, I've got my alarm set. I do two things which are really important. First one is I've got a routine. So every time I get up and out of bed, I have a shower, I have a coffee, basically the same thing every morning. But a byproduct of having a shower is I get into fresh clothes. I'm not working in my pajamas, I'm not working in my trackies, I've got into clothes like I would to go to work. It really just helps you kind of get into the right mindset for, doing work. You're not here to, hang out and, lie on the couch or lie in a beanbag or lie in bed, like I was saying just before. You're there to work. And it kind of just gets me personally feeling like, yep, I'm ready for work. I've got my, my work clothes, which is still pretty casual anyway. But, I'm not just in my PJs or whatever, trying to work, and it's kind of, a bit unprofessional. Also, if you have to jump on any video calls and you're like, not ready to be on video, at least if you're dressed, then you'll be ready to be on video, which is another thing that I want to talk about. And another tip is turn your video on when you're doing calls. Because this is it's a lot more personable to actually talk to people when they've got their video on, and so other people appreciate when you've got your video on. And if you've had a shower and got dressed, and I don't know, put hair gel in your hair or whatever, something for me, at least I can turn on the video and not worry about, I'm still in pajamas. So that's a side benefit of getting dressed in the morning. So when you're ready to start work, you really want basically a dedicated space to be doing work. You can see behind me, I've got my desk set up here, and I've obviously got a lot of screens and stuff. It's a really cool setup, but just behind me here, I've got my bed. So unfortunately, I'm not really in a position this week, I'm moving house next week, but this week to have basically my bed and my desk in separate rooms. So it does make it a little bit hard to separate work and obviously sleeping and just relaxing and stuff, when they're being in the same room. But at least I've got separate spaces. So, like I said before, I'm not doing work in bed, and I've definitely got a separate space just for, doing work. Doesn't necessarily have to be a, full-on, obviously no one really has a full-blown setup like this, but, even just a screen, or even if you've got to, go out in the dining table and take a particular spot, pick a particular chair on your dining table, use that one as your work chair, clean the space, don't have dishes from the night before or food or, washing or whatever on the table, clean that up, make that your desk, and really just stick to that one spot. So your brain thinks, yep, this is a work spot. I'm going to do work now. I'm going to stick to work. And then anywhere else you go in the house, you're not going to think, oh, this is a work spot as well. I'm going to do work as well. You're just going to separate those two areas, and it's really good to separate physically those areas, and it'll help you separate it mentally as well. On the topic of a separate workspace, my other tip is to make sure that workspace is clean. So at the moment, I think we're looking pretty clean here. Obviously, I've cleaned up a tiny bit for this video, but generally it kind of looks like this. I don't really have too much stuff on the desk. Basically, clutter, when I look at clutter like that, I don't know, like subconsciously you kind of feel like, oh, like this is cluttered, I don't really feel like working, or it's distracting, or, you get that classic procrastination where you're like, oh, I'm going to clean up instead of doing work. If you can kind of start the day or end the previous day with cleaning up your desk, getting rid of all the dirty dishes, getting rid of any rubbish, basically just having a clean desk, don't have any cables or anything sitting there or stuff you can fidget with, and just, being able to see the desk kind of makes it a lot more inviting and pleasant of an environment to work in. It's kind of like if you've ever played Sims, one of the bars in Sims is environment. You're much likely to work better, I think, if your environment bar's up, fully on green as opposed to, way down because you've got rubbish everywhere. And obviously no one likes that. My next tip I've done a full video on, so if you want to click up, I always get that side wrong. If you want to click up here and watch my video, it's basically about sorting out your internet and your network at home. Especially if you're living with more than just yourself, you're probably going to have some Wi-Fi congestion problems. You'll jump on a video call, as a lot of people are doing, and you'll be like this, or everyone will think, you kind of sound like a robot to everyone else, or you'll drop out, or you won't be able to support, the video calls, which I think is really important. So basically sort out your internet. Make sure you've got a really solid internet connection. Get whatever, the best possible setup you can, obviously within your budget that you can. And it'll make it just a much better experience for you, not having to wait a long time for things to load, being able to, have quality and crystal clear video calls with people. And it'll also help everyone else who's trying to call you and not having to have that kind of thing and happening and being like, oh, what'd you say? Say that again. But that's really annoying. So on the same note, I think my next few tips are kind of on this note, and they're all about video calls. And that is to just shut your door, or at least use noise cancelling headphones. Shutting your door is really good if you've got that option, because it means people aren't going to come in and, distract you and talk to you, and, other people, if you're on a call with someone, that you're not going to hear the noise from outside. But at least if you've got noise cancelling headphones, you're going to be blocked out from any distractions that are happening around you, any sounds. I know all the time there's like trucks and, people chopping leaves and leaf blowers and stuff out the back. But if I put noise cancelling headphones on, I can't hear any of that. I don't get distracted by that, and I don't get annoyed by that, which is great. If you can shut your door, that's even better, but just this really good pair of noise cancelling headphones is definitely worth the investment. They'll last you so long. I've got these Bose QC35s, which were about $500 when we bought them, but they're cheaper now. And you turn them on, and as soon as you turn them on, you're like, it's just silence. You can't hear anything. They're really good for working, but they're, the sound quality is really good, so I can use them, if I'm going for a walk or going out or something, or going on a plane. So it's a really good investment. Something I recommend everyone has is just a really good pair of noise cancelling headphones. So now that you've got your good pair of noise cancelling headphones, what you want to do is, like I said before, when you have video calls, or when you have calls, turn on your video. And then this leads me into my next tip, which is just chat to people. I'm here, for 8 hours. People, it's an 8 hour day. We're sitting there, and you can't work for 8 hours. Or I know I can't work just solely for 8 hours and doing work. I've really just got to, you've got to take breaks. And one of those ways is to just chat to people. So we've started doing this thing now, instead of, when you go to work and you go get a coffee and someone else gets a coffee at the same time and you chat like that, we started doing virtual coffees. And so a couple of times a day, we'll just call, a couple of people, call different people, just chat to them. You don't have to talk for too long, but, it's so you're not, just sitting there by yourself, not saying anything for 8 hours in a row. Get to know other people, talk to people that you don't normally talk to, maybe. And, maybe even just call your friends if, it doesn't have to be people at your work, and just be video calling, people on Facebook or whatever. Talk to people you wouldn't normally speak to, because it's a lot easier to accept a video call than it is to physically meet up with someone. You've kind of got an excuse now to do a video call, as opposed to, if you can't bother to meet up with someone, which I know is definitely the case for me sometimes. And it's just a really good way to connect with people. And you don't everyone's in the same boat. So it's not like it's, weird that you're calling them just to chat about nothing, just be like, oh, I had 10 minutes downtime now, and I, wanted to know, how's your work from home setup going, or something like that. I found that's a really good way to kind of keep sane. My next couple of tips are about physical health, and the first one is to just go for walks or runs every day. Something that I'm kind of shamefully look at is my step count at the end of the day in the health app on my iPhone, and some days it's under 1,000. I've literally, my entire steps has been to the toilet and to get food at lunchtime, and that's it. And it's just not a good way to, I don't think it's what your bodies are kind of designed to do. When I go to work, I walk to the train station, I walk from the train to work, I go get lunch, I go get coffee, and you end up doing quite a few steps just in doing normal things. But when you're at home, you get up, you go to your desk, and that's it. You don't move anywhere. So adding in some walks or runs, if you can, if you feel like running, are really good ways to get up that step count, get your heart racing, get out of your room, you're not looking at the same environment all the time, you can kind of get some fresh air. And it's just a really healthy way to kind of keep your body, not degrading and falling apart, basically. The other one, kind of related to that, is if you can get a standing desk. I don't have a standing desk at the moment, but the laptop there is on an arm, which I can pull up, so I can stand up. Especially if I'm on a call and I'm not really saying anything, I like to just stand up, basically, and stand up even for just 5 or 10 minutes. You kind of, when you sit back down again, you feel a lot more fresh, especially when you start, you're kind of getting sore around your, your waist and your legs. It's a really just good way just to, once again, just get the blood flowing, get the body moving. If you can get a standing desk, that'd be really cool too. I'm moving, like I said, next week, and I've got a standing desk ready to go that goes up and down. I'm really excited to get that out and stand for longer periods of time, just to, use, so you're just not in the one sedentary position for the whole day. Another good tip I found is when you're feeling really tired and you really want to have a nap, and especially it's really tempting when you've got your bed right behind you like I do, a really good thing is just to do some exercise. So right when I started having to work from home, when my employer said we all had to work from home, I went onto Rebel Sport, which is a sports company in Australia here, and I ordered one of those in walkway pull-up bars, and I also ordered this ab roller thing. And I'm not particularly into fitness or doing exercises or anything, but I just wanted to get them, so I look at it, it'd be like, every time I walk past, I think, I'll do 2 pull-ups or 5 pull-ups or whatever, or I'll do some rolls in the ab roller thing. And it's particularly good when you're in that 3 p.m, 4 p.m, you've had lunch and, you just feel like having a nap. Instead of having a nap, do some exercise. It'll be hard to force yourself to do it, but once you do it, you won't feel tired at all afterwards because your blood's all pumping, your heart rate's up. You won't feel like a nap at all, and you'll be able to go back to work. I guess the other problem with having a nap is, if you wake up at 8 or 9 or something because, you work from home, and then you have a nap for an hour or 2 hours, and then you try and go to bed in the night, it's going to be impossible, especially because if you're like me, you probably haven't walked around that much or done anything physical that day, and you're just going to find it super hard to get to sleep, and you're just going to throw that whole sleep cycle out. So if you can try and not have a nap, and if you're really struggling to not have a nap, try to do some exercise. I really found it helps. My next tip is to set some time boundaries. So time box your work to 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30 or whatever your work hours are. Once it hits 5 or 5:30, stop working. Close your laptop, or if you use the same laptop, for personal stuff, at least what I do is set up 2 different Google Chrome profiles. So I close my work Chrome profile, I close any work-related documents, and you got to stop working. Otherwise, it's so easy to fall in the trap and be like, oh yeah, I'm just doing one last thing, and then you have a look and it's 7 p.m. and you've just wasted 2 hours that, normally you'd probably be home and doing something else by that point, even after a commute, just because you're just sitting there and it's just so easy just to keep working. You're paid basically to do I'm paid to do 9 to 5, and so you don't really need to keep going. I guess it's okay to do that every now and then, but I'd really just try and stick to that schedule and finish at whatever your finish time is. Don't keep going because you just fall into a trap and your whole kind of life will be consumed by work, and you just you won't have those boundaries that are really important for staying kind of have some kind of, realm of normalness in this time. Related to that tip is something I've done recently with everything actually, but particularly for work apps, like I've got Outlook, I've got Teams or Slack or Skype for Business or whatever you use for your chat at work and emails. Just mute all those notifications. Don't even have them, or don't even have the apps on your phone. Or if you really need the apps on your phone, just in case, turn off all the notifications at least. Or some apps actually have do not disturb features, so you can turn them off after 5 and start them again at 9 if you really feel like you need to have them on your phone as well as your computer. I don't feel like I need to have them on my phone as well, so I just have them on my computer. If I'm not actively going into the app on my phone, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to hear about emails that people are sending me late at night. I don't want to see Teams messages that people are sending me on my phone. Once I'm finished at 5, like I said, I don't want to then see someone because someone else is working till 6. I don't want to feel the obligation to respond to them. You might think you can just ignore messages like that, but I find even, that I'm not working, I see a message at 6, I feel like, I'll just quickly reply to that. And then, I'll just quickly do that. They want this, I'll just quickly do that. And then eventually you're just doing all this work for people. And, you just need to have that separation basically. So what I've done now is just muted all the notifications, and I've actually started muting notifications on other apps as well that I found I'm just wasting time on. So the first one I muted, which maybe is controversial, but I turned off the news app completely on my phone. I'm sick of being sent like 10 times a day some, the world is ending kind of article, and then, the world's ending again, and the world's ending again, and this is the worst, and the economy is the worst, and blah, blah, blah. It's stressful. And so what I did was just turn that off. And then when I want news, because I keep up with news anyway, I go to news sites 5 times a day, and that's enough. I don't need to then be sent, scary stuff to your phone all the time. And it's just, it just helps with not thinking about, the world all the time. The other thing I did was delete Facebook and Twitter and Instagram apps off my phone. I still have all those accounts and I still go on them on the computer, and I think that's fine. But on my phone, I'm just spending so much time wasting time scrolling through stuff. I think this is just a general life tip. It's not necessarily really related to work from home. But, just not spending, I look at that screen time report at the end of the week and I've spent like 12 hours on Facebook. And I'm like, what did I get out of that? Nothing. So now that I've turned off, I've deleted all those apps. I'll be in bed looking at my phone, which is probably not a good thing to do anyway, but I'll be on my phone in bed and I'm like, I can't go into Facebook. It's not logged in. It's not logged in this phone. If I want to log in, I've got to get, the multi-factor authentication code, and I've got to get up to my computer. It's so much effort that I don't even go on Facebook, and I'll end up doing something more productive, like, reading a book or something. Something that at least I can say, okay, well, I spent an hour reading a book. That's better than an hour on Facebook. So that was kind of my long, rambly tips for work from home. I don't know how many, maybe there's 12 or 13 tips there, I think. And every single tip's something that I do every single day, and I think really helps me work and be not stressed and worried and stuff like that. If you have any tips yourself, feel free to leave them in the comments, or I don't know, message them to me or tweet them at Technologetic, our Twitter. And if you found any of these tips helpful, give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.